The First Amendment, freedom of speech, is under attack. It appears that individuals do not have the liberty to speak freely against those who have opposing views against them. I found this article in the Washington Post. I'm going to talk about it in a few moments, and I think it addresses the issue about cancel culture. Is cancel culture politics responsible for what has happened? According to the Washington Post, the article's headline reads, quote, Jimmy Kimmel's suspension reverberates beyond late night TV. Critics accuse ABC of bowing to President Trump after it suspended Kimmel's show over his comments about the suspect in the Charlie Kirk killing. All right, what's happening, Frank? Let's get right down to it. His show has not been suspended. Jimmy Kimmel has been fired. That's the bottom line. I don't want to get into this article because it's a rather lengthy article. I'll be checking out the comments in the comments section, and periodically I'll address them. So now this article was written by several people: Anne Brannigan, Jada Yuan, Scott Nover, Annabelle Timsit, and Samantha Cherry. The right-wing campaign to shut down perceived detractors of the late conservative activist Kirk reverberated through the entertainment industry on Thursday, after ABC's announced it would indefinitely suspend late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. The news announced late Wednesday spurred an outcry and accusations that ABC had buckled to a censorship campaign targeting one of President Donald Trump's most vocal critics. Now, in all fairness, why is it that the people over at Fox can say any and everything that they want about the Democrats all day, all night? They lie, they fabricate, they just make up stuff as they go along. And it's okay, because Rupert Murdoch, I'm quite sure, is a right-winged Republican, probably a MAGA supporter as well, probably a major MAGA donor. So it's okay for them to say and do whatever they want to do. But if anybody else exercises their freedom of speech, now that's a big problem. And I'll get into some other stuff in a moment. The network did not give an explanation for suspending Jimmy Kimmel live. Why? Why would they not give an explanation? Because they don't have one. That's why. Because they were pressured behind the scenes. I've said it over and over again, and it bears truth to it. The biggest deals are made in closed, dark places, golf courses, behind closed doors, in smoke-filled rooms. On the day that President Obama was inaugurated as the first Black president of America, it was the bigoted Republicans who met in a swank restaurant down in Washington, D.C., and they planned and plotted with Senator Mitch McConnell at the helm to destroy Obama's presidency even before he got started. And they loathed him and despised him and hated him so much they didn't even attend the inaugural celebration. They made up in their mind right then and there they were going to be obstructionist. They were going to block any and everything that Obama wanted to do. And that's why Obama ruled by executive order. And it was Donald Trump, who wasn't even a candidate then, who criticized Obama for ruling through executive order. And he has ruled through executive order more than Obama, Biden, and Bush combined. So there's hypocrisy here. So ABC cannot give a plausible reason or excuse for firing Jimmy Kimmel because they were forced to fire him. and they bowed down. That's what they did. So they give no explanation after the host delivered a monologue Monday accusing, quote, the president and his henchmen, end quote, of trying to capitalize on Kirk's fatal shooting in Utah last week. But Trump and his allies have urged people to drum Kirk's perceived detractors out of their jobs in the aftermath of the activity's death. Kimmel's suspension was announced hours after Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr criticized the comedian and implied that the FCC will retaliate against those who aired him. Who does the FCC chair serve at the pleasure of? Who was the FCC chairman appointed by? It wasn't by the Biden administration. And they threatened, to retaliate against ABC and its affiliates, knowing that their licensing renewal was coming up. If you don't fire Kimmel, we will not renew your license or licenses. Trump, who has complained about being the target of Kimmel's jokes since long before Kirk's death, reacted with glee to the show getting pulled. Now, the president is all the way over in Britain, but he's on Truth Social, quote, great news for America. The ratings challenged. Jimmy Kimmel's show is canceled in capital letters. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Didn't he sue ABC not too long ago? Yes, he did. The president wrote on social media Wednesday night and called for the cancellation of two other late night shows that have criticized him. NBC's The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Late Night with Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, you should sue the hell out of ABC. You don't have to be a coward. You don't have to back down. Sue them. Win, lose, or draw. Tie them up in litigation. Tie them up in court. Sue them outright. Because if the right-wing talk MAGA pundits on television can say any and everything that they want to say, and there's no punitive action whatsoever, others have the freedom of speech as well. As long as that freedom of speech is not teetering toward violence. As long as it's not calling for the annihilation of anyone, anything, or anybody. People can't go absurd with freedom of speech. Later at a news conference, as he visited England, Trump downplayed concerns about censorship. Well, that's what's going on in America. Censorship is going on in this nation. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You can dress it up any kind of way you want to address it. It's censorship. That's what it is. And that's why independent broadcasters, you have to band together and unify. Stop clamoring to get a job at these major networks to become one of their lackeys and talking heads on television or on radio. Just do your own thing, like I'm doing. As I said before, this channel right here will never become monetized. I refuse to become beholden to a corporation or an entity telling me what I can and cannot do. This program right here is for information. Unfiltered, unadulterated information for all people. Stress the word all. That's for all people. From all races, all ethnic origins, from all backgrounds. Doesn't matter with me if you're Democrat, MAGA, Republican, Socialist, or Independent. I will objectively talk about you and be fair. As I said on yesterday, I will fight for your right to say what you want to say and print whether I agree or disagree with it or not. Because to take away freedom of speech from some, eventually they'll do like Hitler did over in Nazi Germany. Take it away from all. And we saw how that crap ended in Germany, what they did. To our Jewish brothers and sisters. And over 1 million black people died in the Holocaust as well. and other ethnic groups died as well. So later at a news conference, as Trump visited England, he downplayed concerns about censorship. He said Kimmel was, quote, fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, end quote, and added, you can call that free speech or not, quote, close quote. That's debatable. He wasn't fired because of bad ratings. You don't even know people don't even know what the ratings were. He was fired because of pressure. He was fired because ABC loved the money, the prestige, and the power. And don't think that major corporations do not get governmental contracts and government subsidies, because they do. It's called corporate welfare. But you and I, everyday struggling people, we can't even get the basic help that we need to do the things that we need to do for ourselves and for our families. We're out here fighting for every little thing that we get all day and all night. People are working 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 jobs. They're exhausted. They're tired. They're coming home. The grocery prices are out of control. Gas prices are out of control. Inflation is out of control. Medicare, Medicaid is out of control. Corporate greedy CEOs of the insurance companies, they have their lobbyists down in Washington, D.C., lobbying on their behalf because they don't want regulatory things to take place. And still later, as Trump flew home on Air Force One on Thursday, Trump suggested networks that give him bad publicity should, quote, maybe, end quote, have their licenses taken away. The FCC regulates local TV station licenses, not networks. See, that suggestion right there is implying that's what he wants done. You all can people keep thinking that this is a joke. This is not a joke, everybody. This is not a game. This is real. Kimmel's ratings were reportedly falling before his suspension, but the biggest owner of ABC-affiliated stations, Nexstar, did not cite ratings in a statement explaining why it pulled his show. The company instead blasted Kimmel's, quote, offensive and insensitive, end quote, comments about Kirk's death and said that continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time. Well, how about this? How come that bigoted host on Fox Network was not fired for saying that the homeless people should be what? Taken someplace and shot? Why does he still have his job after giving a flimsy apology? He didn't want to apologize because it wasn't in his heart. You can see it in his old crinkled up face. Why does he still have a job? He should have been fired for his insensitivity toward our homeless brothers and sisters, many of them who are living in the streets to no fault of their own. I see my homeless brothers and sisters every single day. Most individuals are half a paycheck away from being homeless. They have to decide whether to pay the rent, the gas, the electric, the mortgage, plus food, and all the activities that the children and stuff are being involved in. Because, the wealthy and the powerful, they're in a subliminal world. These things don't affect them, but everyday people are affected by what is going on in this nation. The agriculture industry is suffering in an unprecedented way. People are losing their jobs by the hundreds of thousands and even the millions on a daily, continual basis. In some instances, the day they come to work is the day they find out that they're fired. Let's call it what it is. F-I-R-E-D, exclamation point. They find out that they have been fired unceremoniously. And most individuals cannot save money because it takes every nickel, dime, penny, and quarter and dollar that they have just to keep their head above water. And you all know that what I'm telling you is 1,000,000% true. Single mothers are out here struggling. Single fathers are out here struggling. 2-parent-headed households are out here struggling. And the richest of the richest many times, because all rich people are not evil. Now, let me get this straight. All rich people are not heartless. All rich people are not cruel. All rich people are not bad people. Many of them have done some great acts of humanitarianism. Many of them have done great acts of being philanthropic and helping the poor and the sick and the suffering and the hurting and establishing good, reputable institutions that do good, reputable work all the time. But then you've got the callous, heartless, greedy group. The more they get, the more they want. They can never settle for less. More, 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 more. Quote, the article continues to say, this is a bow to McCarthyism, end quote. The American Civil Liberties Union Democracy and Technology Division Director Christopher Anders said in a statement, quote, Trump officials are repeatedly abusing their power to stop ideas that they don't like, deciding who can speak, write, and even joke. The Trump administration's actions paired with ABC's capitulation represent a grave threat to our First Amendment freedoms, close quote. And if you don't think that your First Amendment freedoms are under attack, voice your opinion on your job and watch what happens. Act like you don't want to come to work on your day off. Plan something for your family. Plan to be with your friends for celebratory moments. And they will get angry because you don't want to become a slave to corporate America. You know how many executives are on opioids and quaaludes and smoking all kind of weed? The only reason why they have the so-called cannabis business ain't nothing but a weed business or drug business, because they can make money off of it. That's why it's now legalized to buy weed in what they call acceptable places. You remember when prohibition was in effect? But when they found out that they can make money off of alcohol and it could be controlled by the government, that's why they called state liquor stores. Now all of a sudden, prohibition was repealed. And which one is it? Jimmy Kimmel has been muzzled and taken off the air, comedian Mark Maron said in an Instagram video posted early Thursday morning. This is what authoritarianism looks like right now in this country. This is government censorship, quote, close quote. In contrast, this isn't right, actor and director Ben Stiller wrote on X. In contrast, Kimmel's suspension was largely celebrated across the right-leaning media sphere. Read that again. In contrast, Kimmel's suspension was largely celebrated across the right-leaning media sphere, where some personalities tried to square his downfall with their professional embrace of free speech rights. Well, listen up, MAGA Republicans. You all are not going to be the only ones that can have free speech here in America and say what you want to say about anything, anyone, anybody, anytime. The moment somebody differs with you based along your ideological differences, then you want to call it hate speech. But you want to be able to say what you want to say when you want to say it. It don't go like that. Either everybody has the power to speak freely or nobody has the power to speak freely. You can't have one marginalized group of people thinking that they are going to corner the market for talking freely in this nation. It goes on to say, quote, this is not cancel culture at all, close quote. Trump voting podcast host Dave Portnoy said in a video posted to social media, what cancel culture is when you don't like somebody say me and are like, we want to get rid of Dave, so we are going to comb through everything Dave has said for the past 20 years, and we are going to find things that we don't like, close quote. Wrong, Dave. People have a right to differ with you. You're not Almighty God. You're not the divine, sovereign, omnipotent, omniscient one who sits on the throne and rules the entire world. They have a right to comb through things that they disagree with Everybody doesn't agree with the things I say here, and that's why I don't censor them. I don't turn off the comment section like a coward. I let the comments come through, whether they're for me or against me. Everybody has the right to be able to speak his or her mind and his or her opinion. And if you are that thin-skinned, then stop being a podcaster. Only cowards turn off their comments because they can't stand the heat. I can take it. I was born for it. This is fun to me. I want people to be able to express their opinions, their objections, their pros and their cons. That's what America is. But they don't have the right to do like many have done in the unfortunate death of the late now Charlie Kirk. You don't have the right to say mean, hateful, despicable, disgusting things pertaining to him. Now that is wrong. Respect his family. Respect the fact that he has a wife. He has children. He has friends who loved him. That's all I'm saying. I disagree with a lot of people politically, but I don't hate them. We can disagree. We can still be friends or associates at the end of the day. Families have been torn apart because of MAGA politics. It's ridiculous. All right, let me finish up this article. What happened to Kimmel, I would say, is consequences for your actions in real time, he said. Mike Pence, who served as Trump's vice president in his first term, told The Atlantic's Tim Alberta that private employers have every right to dismiss employees, whether they're a television talk show host or otherwise, if they violate the standards of that company. Well, stipulate what the standards are before you sign the contract. But Kimmel's apparent punishment was condemned by the Free Press, an online news outlet founded by former New York Times editor Bari Weiss, who has been embraced by many conservatives for her critiques of alleged censorship by liberals. ABC Vent's late night host Jimmy Kimmel, no, they fired him. Read an editorial published on the Free Press Thursday. That in and of itself is no great loss to comedy, but the circumstances under which he has been suspended should alarm anyone who cares about free speech. He has been fired. Prominent Democrats, meanwhile, expressed unqualified outrage. Senate Minority Leader Charles E. Schumer, Democrat from New York, called on Trump Thursday to fire Carr, who Trump nominated to chair the FCC after his election in November. That ain't going to happen. Because Carr is going to do exactly what he's told to do. He's not going to rock the boat. You go against your boss, he will destroy you. That's what happens when you make a deal with certain people. I can't think of a greater threat to free speech than Carr in many, many years, Schumer told reporters. He's despicable. He's anti-American. He ought to resign, and Trump ought to fire him, quote, close quote. The lone Biden appointee on the three-person FCC commission, Ana Gomez, issued a strong dissent from her colleagues on Thursday, saying her agency did not have the authority, the ability, or the constitutional right to punish Kimmel. We cannot allow an inexcusable act of political violence to be twisted into a justification for government censorship and control, Gomez said. Gomez cited ABC News reporter Matt Gutman's recent apology for his coverage of the Kirk shooting, alongside the Kimmel decision, as evidence of government pressure on media companies to punish speech it dislikes. Such action, she said, put the foundation of the First Amendment in danger, quote, close quote. And on social media, former President Barack Obama accused the current administration of, quote, routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like, end quote. Kimmel's initial response to Kirk's death was unremarkable. On his show last week, the comedian called the killing, quote, senseless, end quote, and said he had seen extraordinarily violent responses to this from both sides of the political spectrum, including those who said were cheering Kirk's death, end quote. But Kimmel caught Carr's attention Monday night when he said the MAGA gang was desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Quote, close quote. Well, he certainly wasn't a Democrat. He wasn't an independent. He wasn't a socialist. The comedian was referring to 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the Utah man accused of killing Kirk. Robinson grew up in a Republican household, but had apparently become sympathetic to LGBTQ plus causes, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Authorities had not announced the motive for Kirk's killing. On Wednesday, Carr appeared to threaten ABC if it did not punish Kimmel. Quote, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," end quote. The FCC chief told conservative podcast Benny Johnson, "These companies can find ways to change conduct and take actions on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead." Hours later, Nexstar, which owns ABC stations in more than 30 markets, announced it would replace the show. You can replace the show, but if people want Kimmel, they ain't gonna watch the news show. People want what they want. Notably, Nexstar is seeking the Trump administration's approval to acquire Tigna, another big group of U.S. stations. Now the plot thickens. The plot thickens. I told you. The deals are made behind closed doors in the dark. The deal requires the FCC to loosen the government's limits on broadcast station ownership. Minutes after the company criticized Kimmel, ABC announced that the show was being yanked nationwide. Later Wednesday evening, another big station group, Sinclair, announced it would air a 1-hour special tribute to Kirk on Friday night in Kimmel's usual time slot. Let me just say something. When the Democratic lawmakers were murdered in their homes, there was no empathy or sympathy coming from the Republicans at all. They laughed, they jeered, and they gleefully celebrated the death of 2 Democratic lawmakers. Flags were not lowered. There were no tributatory remarks coming to them, no acts of compassion nor decency. What about the children who were killed in school? There is no major media coverage concerning them. Why not? Their lives are precious. Young children. And how did another young child get a gun to take into school to murder his fellow schoolmates? And of course, they don't want gun control, because then the NRA, who has given hundreds of millions of dollars and poured it into the coffers of the Republicans, would definitely be upset. Now you want to do something to honor the memory of the late Charlie Kirk? Pass gun control measures to make sure no one ever again can do what this young man has done. And this is coming from a black man who is speaking with empathy and sympathy for the late Charlie Kirk. Whether I agreed or disagreed with him, that's not the issue. He was a human being. Sinclair, whose broadcasts have often aligned with conservative political positions, issued a statement saying the late-night host suspension is not enough and called on the network, the FCC, to want to apologize. The maelstrom over Kimball's show recalled CBS's announcement in July that it would not renew its Emmy-winning Late Night with Stephen Colbert, whose host had angered Trump by mocking him. Colbert will get another show. He'll get another show. The network called Colbert's cancellation purely a financial decision. Lies. More lies. And not related in any way to the show's performance content or the matters happening at its appearance company Paramount. Liar. Paramount is owned by Sumner Redstone. Sumner Redstone owns BET, MTV, VH1. Sumner Redstone is a Jewish attorney. He's probably retired by now. Oh, I do my homework thoroughly. Days before the announcement, Colbert had criticized Paramount's $16 million lawsuit settlement with the president, calling it, quote, a big fat bribe, end quote, as the media company sought FCC approval for an $8 billion corporate merger. Trump celebrated Colbert's cancellation. Kimmel's contract with ABC was set to expire next year, and there was speculation about whether it would be renewed in light of what happened to Colbert. The American Federation of Musicians, which represents the musicians on Kimmel's show, and the Writers Guild of America, West and East, which represents its writers, expressed solidarity with Kimmel and the show's staff. If free speech applied only to ideas we like, we needn't have bothered to write it into the Constitution. What we have signed on to, painful as it may be at times, is the freeing agreement to disagree, the Writers Guild said in the statement. Shame on those in government who forgot this founding truth, quote, close quote. That's real. Now, I ask you this as I close. Do you want your freedom of speech suppressed? Do you want your intellectual ideas suppressed? Do you want someone to tell you in your government how to walk, talk, think, and act? The answer is no. You and I don't. All right. Thank you all for watching today. I've got to get ready for the next segment. The comments are coming in so fast, and so I can't really read every one of them, but it's all good. Till next time, never surrender, never quit.